The ship shook violently as alarms screamed through the control room. Lieutenant Adam Cole grabbed the controls, his hands shaking with fear. A field of metal debris had appeared out of nowhere, floating in the darkness of space. Something was wrong, very wrong. No signal from command, he said to himself, his voice trembling. System damage, engine failure. The ship's computer repeated again and again. Before he could do anything else, the ship was already diving into the atmosphere of an unknown planet. The heat rose, the flames roared, and everything went black. When Adam woke up, he was hanging upside down, still strapped in the pilot's seat. The broken ship was half buried in the mud of a thick jungle. Strange bird-like sounds echoed through the trees. He unbuckled himself and fell to the ground with a heavy thud. His arm hurt, his leg was bleeding, and his gear was mostly ruined, but he was alive. He grabbed the emergency kit and stepped outside. The air was hot and smelled like wet leaves and old metal. The jungle was dense, full of giant trees with twisted roots. He saw glowing insects, red flowers that seemed to breathe, and vines that moved like snakes. But what scared him the most were the bones. Huge white bones scattered in the mud like broken towers. Some looked like ribs, others like skulls. He stood next to one and realized it was bigger than his whole body. What kind of creature lived here? He whispered, and more importantly, was it still alive? As night came, he made a fire using sparks from a damaged wire and dry leaves. He tried to stay calm, but then he heard it. A low growl from deep in the forest. His body froze. Branches snapped, the earth shook slightly, and something massive moved between the trees. He turned off the fire and backed away slowly, hiding behind the broken ship. Through the dark, he saw a shape. It was tall, almost as tall as the trees. Two glowing eyes scanned the crash site. The creature sniffed the air and let out a slow, deep breath. Then it stepped closer, its heavy foot landing near the broken wing of his ship. Adam held his breath. The creature bent down, sniffed the fire pit, and then stood straight again. The moonlight finally revealed its shape, a female. Form, giant and muscular. Her skin was pale like moonstone. Her long black hair tied behind her back with vines. She wasn't wearing armor, only animal furs wrapped around her chest and waist. She didn't look like a beast, but something worse, something intelligent. Adam had heard stories of giant aliens, carnivores who hunted men and drank their blood. This had to be one of them. She turned her head slowly and looked straight at the wreckage. Adam ducked lower, trying to disappear in the shadows. She took one step, then another, the ground shaking beneath her feet. Then she stopped, sniffed the air again, and walked away, disappearing into the trees. Adam didn't sleep that night. He sat with his back against the metal hull, holding a sharp piece of scrap like a knife. He knew the planet was dangerous, but now he realized it was worse than he feared. He was not alone. The next morning, he climbed a tree to get a better view. The forest stretched far into the horizon. No signs of civilization, no smoke, no roads, only green, endless and wild. Then he spotted something in the distance. A huge mark in the trees, like something had pushed them aside. Broken branches, deep footprints, and scratched bark. He followed the trail, slowly and carefully. It led to a wide clearing with a pool of water in the center. And there, standing by the water, was her, the Giantess. She was drinking from the pool, her hands cupped like bowls. She looked peaceful, almost human, but too big, too powerful. Adam stepped back, but snapped a twig. Her head snapped toward him like lightning. Their eyes met hers wide with surprise. His full of fear. She growled, and Adam turned and ran. Branches whipped his face, roots grabbed at his feet. He didn't look back. He didn't want to know if she was chasing him. He just ran. When he finally reached his ship again, he collapsed, gasping for air. But as he looked up, he saw something that made his heart stop. A giant wooden cage just outside his camp. And in front of it, the Giantess was waiting. She hadn't eaten him, not yet, but she had found him, and now she had a cage. Was it for him? Adam stared at the wooden cage, his heart beating hard in his chest. It looked freshly built, the wood still damp and rough. Each bar was thick as his arm, tied with strong vines. There was no way he could break it, not with his hands, not with anything he had. She stood there silently, watching him. The giantess didn't speak, didn't move, just stood like a statue. Adam slowly stepped back toward the wreckage of his ship. His hands were shaking, his mouth dry. The giantess tilted her head, then pointed toward the cage. Adam froze. She pointed again, slower this time, and then lowered her hand. He wasn't sure if it was a warning or an invitation. He didn't move. He waited, ready to run if she lunged at him. But she didn't. Instead, she turned around and walked into the forest again. Leaving the cage behind, Adam didn't sleep. All night he sat by his fire, watching the trees. Every shadow looked like her. Every sound made him jump. But she never came back, not that night. By morning, he was too tired to think clearly. His body was weak, his leg wound hurt worse than before. He needed food, real food, not just dry rations and water pills. But the jungle was full of danger, and now he had more than just beasts to fear. Still, he had no choice. He followed the edge of the forest. Keeping close to the ship, he found strange fruits, some small animals, and clean water from a stream. He took only what he needed, always listening for footsteps. When he returned, the cage was gone. His heart sank, but then he saw it again moved. Closer to the ship, like a silent message, next to it. A pile of food berries, clean roots, and a cooked fish, still warm. Adam stared in disbelief. She had brought him food. She could have crushed him, hunted him, taken him, but she fed him instead. He didn't touch it at first, afraid it might be poisoned, but hunger won. He tasted the fish. It was real, fresh and good. The berries were sweet, the roots soft and filling. He ate quickly, glancing at the forest every few seconds. Was this her game? Was she fattening him up? Was he just cattle to her? Later that day, she returned. Adam saw her walking between the trees, slow and quiet. She didn't come closer than a few steps past the tree line. She just watched him, her glowing eyes calm but unblinking. Adam raised his hand slowly, unsure what he was doing. She watched, then raised her hand the same way. The moment felt strange, unreal. Like two creatures from different worlds trying to talk without words. For the next few days, the pattern repeated. She left food by the cage, stayed nearby but didn't approach. Adam ate, healed slowly, and watched her just as she watched him. Sometimes she brought things, shiny rocks, animal bones, carved wooden shapes. One day she placed a long stick beside the food. Adam picked it up. It was carved into a sharp spear. He looked at her, confused. Was she arming him? He pointed the spear at the forest, then at her. She didn't move, didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped back, slowly, and raised her hands with open palms. A peaceful sign, like she was saying, "Not for me." That night, he didn't sleep. Outside, he chose to sleep inside the cage, not because he was trapped, but because it now felt safe. Strange how something meant to hold him now protected him instead. He started to feel something he hadn't felt since the crash. Curiosity. Who was she? Why was she helping him? What did she want? She never spoke, never tried to touch him, but her eyes said things he couldn't understand. There was something human in them, but also something old, older than any human he had ever known. On the 6th night, a wild beast came. It was fast, loud, and covered in black fur. Adam heard it growling outside the wreck, saw its red eyes glowing. He grabbed his spear, ready to fight but knowing he had no chance. Before the creature could reach him, the trees behind it exploded. She came crashing through, roaring louder than thunder. One swing of her arm broke the beast's back like a twig. It screamed once, then fell silent. She stood over the body, breathing hard. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. Then she looked at Adam, and without a word, she turned and vanished into the trees again. That night, he sat by the fire and whispered to himself, "She didn't have to save me. She doesn't want to eat me. But then, what does she want?" The morning light touched the treetops as Adam opened his eyes. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then the pain in his leg reminded him. The scent of wet leaves and smoke told him the truth. He was still on the alien planet, still alone, except for her. The fire had burned out during the night. The forest was strangely quiet, like it was holding its breath. The dead beast still lay near the camp, its fur stained with blood and mud. Adam walked over to it, staring at the crushed bones and broken jaw. One swing from her hand had done that. She was strong enough to tear him in half without trying. But she hadn't. Not when she first found him. Not when she had the chance. Not even now. Adam looked around and realized something had changed. There was no cage, no food waiting, no sign of her. The air felt different, empty. He climbed a tree slowly, using vines and broken branches to reach a high point. He wanted to see if she was nearby. But the forest below was still and green. No movement, no sound, just endless trees. He sat on the branch, thinking. Every time she appeared, it was silent. Like she didn't walk, she glided, like the forest moved for her. He didn't understand her, but she seemed to understand him. When he climbed back down, he noticed something strange. The trail from the beast's attack had vanished. The trees were no longer broken. The bushes had grown back. It was like nothing had happened. But that wasn't possible. He went back to the crash site and checked. Everything still damaged. Still real, only the forest had changed. It made him feel like the planet itself was alive, watching him too. He tried to build a small lookout post in the trees, using metal pieces from the ship. It was hard work, but it gave him purpose. Still, every few minutes, he looked over his shoulder, waiting for her to return. And then one evening, she did. Not with food or weapons, not even with a sound. He turned around, and she was just there, sitting on a rock watching the sunset. No growl, no movement, just presence. Adam didn't run this time. He sat near his fire, not far from her. They stared at the sky, both silent, both still. The colors turned from gold to deep purple, stars blinking into view. She reached into a small pouch tied around her waist. She pulled out something shiny. A piece of metal bent, scratched, but clearly human tech. Adam stood slowly and walked closer. She placed the metal on a flat rock and stepped back. He picked it up carefully. It was part of a human badge, broken, burned, with only 2 letters left, U and N. It was from a United Nations ship. He looked at her in shock. She pointed at the sky, then at herself, then at him. Then she closed her hand slowly, like pulling something in. Adam didn't understand the message, but it felt important. The next day, he followed her from a distance. She didn't stop him. She led him through paths that twisted and turned. Every time he thought he was lost, she waited ahead. After a while, he realized something strange. They were walking in circles, but the forest looked different every time. New colors, new sounds, new trees. It was like the forest was changing around them. Hours passed, but he didn't feel tired. He didn't feel hungry or thirsty. It felt like time was bending in strange ways, like the world was not real, but a dream. Then they reached a clearing, unlike any he'd seen before. Huge stone pillars stood in a ring, cracked and covered in glowing vines. In the center was a shallow pool, perfectly still. The water reflected the sky, but the stars were moving too fast. She knelt beside the pool and touched the surface. A ripple spread across, and images flashed within. Adam saw ships, fire, battles, and faces human and not human. He saw her younger, covered in wires and armor. He saw himself, falling from the sky. He stumbled back, heart pounding. She stood again and looked at him. This time her face showed something new: sorrow, not fear, not anger, but deep, heavy sadness. She walked toward him, slowly. Adam stood still, unsure what to do. She knelt before him, lowering herself to his level. Then she touched her chest and softly tapped it twice. It wasn't a threat. It felt like a greeting, a message, a name. She tapped again, then pointed to herself. Valora. The sound was soft, ancient, barely a whisper. Adam whispered back, "Adam." For the first time she smiled, not wide, not big, just a small, tired smile. The wind moved through the trees, the forest seemed to breathe with them. Adam knew this planet was full of secrets, but the biggest one was standing right in front of him. She wasn't just a creature, she wasn't just a giant. She wasn't just watching him. She had brought him here for a reason. And now he had to find out why. Adam sat alone by the pool after she left. The images he saw still burned in his mind. Flashes of fire, war, machines, and stars twisting like rivers. The face of the giantess, younger and full of pain, stayed with him the most. He touched the surface of the pool again, but now it showed only his reflection. His face looked different, tired, dirty, smaller than he remembered. The trees around him didn't move, and the sky above felt heavier than before. He whispered her name again, Valora. The pool remained still, offering no answer, so he walked back toward the wreckage, taking the same winding paths. But something was wrong. The forest didn't look the same. The trees were bigger, the leaves a deeper color, the air colder. He followed his trail, but it no longer led to the ship. The jungle had changed again. Or maybe the world itself was shifting beneath him. He stopped walking, unsure of which way to turn. Then he saw her, standing silently between two stone trees. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. Her eyes said everything. "Follow me." He followed, though he didn't know where they were going. She moved slowly this time, like she wanted him to notice everything. Strange symbols carved into rocks, plants that opened and closed like books, small animals that stood on two legs and watched them pass. Finally, they reached a large wall of stone. It was covered in markings, like a story drawn in light. She pointed at the wall, then touched the stone. It glowed softly, revealing her pictures. One showed her standing in a lab, wires connected to her body, scientists around her, their faces full of fear and control. Another showed her breaking free, running through fire, escaping into the stars. Then came an image of a ship crashing, a small one, his ship. He stepped back, stunned. She had seen his fall before it happened, or maybe she had dreamed it. What kind of being could dream the future? He looked at her again, this time not with fear but with wonder. She wasn't an animal, not a monster. She was something else, something ancient and powerful, maybe even broken. She had tried to talk to him since the beginning, but he hadn't listened. He sat down by the wall, thinking, if she could see parts of the future, maybe she knew things he didn't. But why help him? Why not let him die like the others? She sat beside him without a word. Then, slowly, she began to draw in the dirt with her finger. Simple lines at first, stars, circles, arrows pointing. Then shapes, ships, people, explosions. He understood. Only a little, but one thing became clear. She had not just escaped the lab, she had taken something with her. Something inside her that others wanted. Something they had made her carry. Maybe it was knowledge, maybe power, maybe something worse. She pointed at his chest, then at her own. Then she drew two stars connected by a line. He nodded slowly, trying to understand. "We are linked," he whispered, unsure if she understood him. She looked at him with a sad expression. Then she drew one more shape, a tall tower with a signal. On top, she pointed at the sky, then at the drawing. He understood instantly. It was a communication tower. He jumped up, excited. "Can we reach a ship? A rescue signal?" He asked. She didn't reply, but stood and began walking again. He followed without question, his mind spinning with new hope. They climbed a high ridge for hours. At the top stood a broken metal tower, half covered in vines, the remains of an old human station, long abandoned. Rust clung to every part, but the core still glowed dimly. Adam ran toward the console and brushed off the dust. Most of it was dead, but one panel blinked when he touched it. He smiled, hands flying across the screen. It still worked, barely, but it worked. He sent out a ping, a weak signal, just strong enough to call for help. Then he looked at her. but she wasn't smiling. She turned away, her face heavy with worry. He didn't understand until he saw the sky darken. Clouds twisted above, lights flashing from beyond the clouds. A ship was coming, but not the one he wanted. He hadn't just called help, he had called something else too. She looked at him, sadness and fear mixed in her eyes. He stepped toward her, but she backed away slowly, as if she knew what was coming. As if she had seen it before, Adam stared at the sky. The stars above no longer looked peaceful. They looked like eyes watching, waiting, ready to strike. He had sent a message into the dark, but he didn't know who had answered it. The wind roared across the ridge as the first light appeared in the sky. It wasn't sunlight, it was artificial, bright and white and cold. Adam stared at the sky with wide eyes. The rescue he hoped for wasn't the one arriving. The ship dropped. Lower, moving without sound. Its shape was sharp, not friendly. Dark metal glinting in the sky. Symbols flashed along its body, symbols Adam didn't recognize. But Velora did. She stepped forward slowly, her body tense, her hands clenched. Adam looked at her, then at the ship. "You know them," he whispered. She didn't answer, but the way her eyes narrowed told him enough. This wasn't rescue, this was a hunt. Not for him, but for her. And now he had brought them right to her. The ship hovered above the jungle, scanning, waiting. Then a loud voice echoed from the sky, speaking in a language Adam didn't know. Velora growled softly, the sound deep and full of pain. She reached behind her and pulled out a long blade carved from bone and crystal. Adam stepped back, shocked. He had never seen her carry a weapon until now. It wasn't just a tool, it was something ancient, something she had once sworn never to use again. But now she had no choice. A beam of light dropped from the ship to the ground far below. It formed a glowing path, and from it stepped tall, armored figures, not human, not fully alien. They walked like machines but moved like predators. Velora stood tall, facing the path. Adam grabbed a metal rod from the broken tower and ran to her side. "I started this," he said quietly. "I'll finish it too." She looked at him, her face softening just for a moment. One of the figures shouted, and the others aimed their weapons. Velora didn't wait. She ran forward, faster than anything Adam had seen before. Her blade swung, sparks flew, metal screamed. Adam followed behind her, ducking and swinging his rod like a club. He wasn't trained, he wasn't fast, but he was angry. And that was enough to keep him moving. One of the attackers raised a glowing baton. Adam barely blocked it, the force sending him flying backward. His arm throbbed, but he didn't drop the rod. He stood again, teeth clenched, heart pounding. Velora was surrounded, but she didn't fall. Each strike from her blade cracked armor and shattered helmets. She didn't roar, didn't scream. She fought in silence. Like this was something she had done before. Many times the attackers spoke in short bursts, their voices mechanical. They weren't just soldiers, they were hunters, bred to take down things like her, things the universe feared and wanted to erase. Adam saw one of them raise a small device. It blinked red, pulsed, then fired a bolt of energy toward her back. Without thinking, Adam threw himself forward. The blast hit him instead. He fell, his chest burning, vision going dark. He felt the ground hit him, felt cold air on his face, and then her voice, not a growl, not a whisper, a word. "Adam." His eyes opened, barely. She was standing over him, blood on her arms, her face full of something more than pain. Her lips moved again, slowly, carefully. "You safe?" He reached up, touched her hand. "You can speak," he whispered. She nodded just once. Then she stood and turned toward the last attacker. It tried to flee, but she didn't let it. One final leap, one final strike. The forest grew quiet again. The ship in the sky hovered, then rose quickly and vanished into the clouds. Adam lay on the ground, breathing slowly. Velora knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his chest. Warmth flowed through him, not magic, not tech, something deeper, something alive. She leaned close, her voice soft, unsure. I speak ... only ... For you. Tears filled his eyes, not from pain, but from something he didn't have a name for. He had come to this planet alone, now he wasn't. The stars returned to the sky, quiet and still. The jungle sighed, and Adam knew the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of meaning. He reached up and touched her hand again. She smiled, small and tired, and for the first time, they didn't need words. They understood each other completely. Adam sat under the broken tower, staring at the empty sky. The strange ship had left, but the damage it caused remained. Ash still floated in the air, pieces of armor and metal scattered in the mud. His body ached, but his mind was far from pain. She had spoken, not by accident, not by instinct. She had chosen to speak. And she had used his name. That moment echoed louder than any weapon. Velora stood nearby, watching the jungle with sharp eyes. Her blade was still in her hand, stained with black blood, but she looked calmer now, as if the storm inside her had settled. Adam wanted to ask her questions, but the silence between them felt sacred. The sun began to set, throwing long shadows through the trees. He leaned against a rock and closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't sleep, but drifted in something softer than sleep, a quiet space where memory and meaning floated like dust. A sound pulled him back, a high-pitched hum coming from the sky. He opened his eyes slowly, expecting birds or wind, but it wasn't either. Another ship appeared. Smaller than the last, it wasn't hiding. It came down openly, lights blinking. Like a beacon, Adam stood, heart pounding. This time, the markings were human. He ran toward the clearing. As the ship landed, the door hissed open, and 3 humans stepped out, 2 soldiers and a medic. They looked shocked to see him alive. They rushed to him, asking questions. Checking his vitals, he answered them, but kept looking over his shoulder. Velora hadn't moved. She stood at the tree line, half in shadow, watching everything. The soldiers noticed her and froze. One of them raised his weapon slowly. Adam grabbed the barrel and pushed it down. "She saved me," he said firmly. "She's not the threat." They hesitated, eyes wide with disbelief. The medic whispered into a cum, probably calling for orders. The other soldier backed up, gun still pointed low but ready. Adam stepped between them and Velora. "She speaks," he said. "She understands us." The soldier scoffed. "That thing?" Velora blinked slowly, her face unreadable. Adam clenched his fists. "She bled for me," he said. "She killed to protect me." The command center's voice came through the radio. "Proceed with caution. Do not engage unless provoked." The soldiers relaxed slightly, but suspicion hung in the air like smoke. Adam turned and walked back to her, slowly, carefully. She didn't step forward. He reached out his hand, open and empty. After a moment, she placed her palm gently against his. Her eyes met his, calm but full of questions. The humans behind him didn't understand what they were seeing, but Adam did. This was a bridge between what was feared and what was unknown. The medic approached, whispering, "We need to extract you, Adam." He turned slightly, eyes still on Velora. "I'm not going without her," he said. Silence fell again, heavier this time. The medic looked at the soldiers, confused. She's not even human," the younger one muttered. Adam nodded. "She's not," he said. "That's why she matters." The older soldier scratched his head. "What do you mean?" Adam looked up at the stars, now blinking above the treetops. "She was made by humans, twisted by them, hunted by them, but she chose to protect one," he continued. "She chose peace, not war." The soldiers didn't know how to reply, so they stood there, waiting for someone else to decide. Another voice came over the radio, a new one, deeper, colder. "You are ordered to return immediately. Subject is considered high-level biorisk." Adam looked at Velora, then at the ship. He shook his head slowly. "Then I'm staying." The radio crackled again. "Repeat that." "I'm staying," he said again, louder. "You can leave without me." The medic tried to stop him, but he stepped back. Velora watched quietly, her hand still near his. She didn't smile, didn't react. But something in her posture changed, lighter, softer. The soldiers argued among themselves. Finally, the medic called it in. "We're pulling back," she said. "One survivor refuses extraction." The ship door hissed closed, and the engines lit up. The ship lifted into the sky and disappeared into the stars. Adam exhaled slowly. Velora looked at him. "You stay," she whispered, unsure. "I stay," he answered. They stood in the clearing, side by side. No more cage, no more silence. Just two beings who had chosen to trust. And far above, in the cold darkness of space, new eyes were watching. But this time, Adam was ready, and he wouldn't be alone. Night fell slowly over the jungle. Stars blinked into the sky one by one, like old memories returning. The fire crackled gently between them. Adam sat close to it, staring at the flames, lost in thought. Velora sat across from him, silent as always. But the silence between them now felt different. It was not empty. It was full of things they both understood without saying. The jungle was calm, but Adam knew it wouldn't last. The message had gone out. The ship had left, but others would come, not to rescue, but to erase. They would come for her, because she wasn't supposed to exist, because she had survived, because she had chosen something different. Adam sharpened a spear beside the fire. It felt foolish, wood and bone against machines and weapons, but it gave him purpose. It gave him time to think about what came next. Velora stood and walked to the edge of the trees. She looked up at the stars. Her eyes filled with something distant. He followed her. She didn't speak, but raised her hand and pointed to a cluster of lights in the sky. He looked up and saw it too. A fleet, still far away, but moving. No rescue beacons this time, no slow approach. They were coming fast, with purpose and fire. Adam lowered his eyes. He had made his choice. He wasn't leaving her. But staying might mean dying. Still, something deep inside told him this wasn't the end. Velora looked at him, then touched her chest again. She said a word he didn't know. Soft and broken. He tilted his head. "What does that mean?" he asked gently. She tapped her chest again, slower this time, then pointed at him. Then back to her chest. Her voice trembled as she whispered again, "Home." The word hit him harder than any weapon could. She didn't want to eat him, trap him, or rule him. She wanted something no one had ever given her. She wanted to belong. Adam stepped closer and took her hand. It was warm, rough, full of quiet strength. He looked into her eyes. "You are not alone," he said. She squeezed his hand gently, then turned toward the trees. They moved together, passing through the deep forest. The animals didn't flee this time. They watched in silence. They reached the old stone ring, the place where the visions first came. The pool in the center was glowing now. Soft light danced across the surface, like a mirror to the stars. Velora stepped into it slowly, the water rising to her knees. She raised her arms. The rooms on the stones lit up, one by one. Adam stood at the edge, breath held. The pool began to shift, showing images again, not memories, but choices. He saw the ships falling like spears from the sky, but he also saw something else, a future, where she stood tall, not hunted, not feared. A future where the word giant meant guardian, not monster. The pool pulsed once, then faded. Velora stepped back onto the stone, her face calm but firm. She nodded at Adam, then toward the stars. It was time together. They climbed the ridge again. The jungle below seemed to whisper their names. The wind carried something electric, hope or warning, maybe both. The first ship appeared above the clouds, larger than the last, louder, filled with weapons. Adam didn't flinch. Velora didn't move. They stood side by side as the ground shook beneath them. The sky opened like a wound, and light poured down. But this time, Adam stepped forward, and this time he spoke first. "She is not your enemy," he shouted. He didn't know if they heard him, but Velora did. And she placed her hand on his shoulder, steady and sure. The ship paused, hovering, scanning. Seconds passed, long and heavy, then a voice, distant and unsure, echoed from above. "Who is she to you?" Adam turned to Velora, then back to the sky. "She is mine," he said, "and I am hers." The silence that followed felt like a storm holding its breath. Then slowly, the ship rose back into the clouds. They didn't fire, they didn't speak. Again, they just left. For now, Adam exhaled, his knees weak but his heart steady. Velora looked at him with soft eyes. He smiled, tired and amazed. "You didn't eat me," he said, trying to laugh. Velora blinked, then stepped closer. She leaned down, her voice a whisper against his ear. "Not like that." And for the first time since crashing on that world, Adam truly laughed. The stars above shone brighter that night. The jungle hummed with peace, and in a world that had once wanted to destroy her, she had finally found what she was never meant to have: home.